The sun just starting to set here at the Speedco Indianapolis Pro Pulling Nationals, presented by E3 Spark Plugs. As we go into our next category, it is going to be the four-wheel drive category. Normally aspirated power plants, four-wheel drive, as the name of the category would indicate. And we'll start things off with the Foolish Farmer. And Mike Mankey is going to start things off at 298.06.
And that's a great mark to start off the class here. Always such a huge field of modified four-wheel drive trucks. And so if you're in this category, you have really got to watch your P's and Q's, especially on the starting line, placing that sled. Everybody's got just about the same power out here, and they're all chasing down Terry Hagedorn. We'll see him in gunpowder and lead in the third slot tonight in our pulling order. Former class champ Jim Bosch out there towards the bottom, and then Terry Hagedorn in the Untamed Spirit going to round out the class with another former class champion, Steve Clem, in there as well.
Yeah, Terry Hagedorn has been very busy this year and very successful. Just Rutten has also had an extremely good season up to this point, and Pete McKeith had a chance to speak with Crash earlier today.
Pete McKeith is second in the points right now in only his second PPL season, and we're talking, what, 7 top 10s? What are you doing? What's your magic?
I don't know. I did some research over the winter and figured a couple things out with the truck, I guess. But
such as?
Oh, just some changes on the suspension and clutch program.
But you're really not going to get into detail with me, are you?
No, that's my secret.
So clutch is your secret?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, clutch for sure.
Well, again, each of these tracks is so vastly different, and the weather conditions are different. So how do you fine-tune it per track, your truck?
Gearing and the driving style, mostly. That's the only thing you can go by, I guess. And I haven't pulled very many of these sleds because it's a different sled every week. But I'm learning, catching on.
I think you're learning pretty well.
Yeah, I'm gaining on them. It's one red truck I got to catch up with, but we'll see.
And these guys are always so tight-lipped because it is so competitive. You know, the chassis are so similar, you know, unlimited cubes on the power plant, so everybody's making really good power up there. So it's all about how they're going to hook it up to the track and their gear selection. I mean, they're so secretive that they, like, put their gears in, like, socks and plastic bags and wrap them up in Christmas paper.
And mark them differently, just in case somebody does find one.
Absolutely.
Then, of course, you have to have the secret code to remember what your mark actually means. Just Rutten comes out here, and that full song goes 3:21 and 25.
And, you know, Pete McKeith's the guy that does his homework. You know, he sits up on the stage during the show and watches the whole afternoon session. He watches them rip up the track. He watches them rebuild the track. And then he goes back to his notes from last year. It was his first season with the PPL out here on the Champions Tour. And he studies those notes since that's all he has to go off of. These other guys out here, you know, they've been doing this 20 years and going to these same tracks. And so he's got to be really judicious about looking at all those notes and putting it all together.
Here's a look at the points as you take a look. We talked about Terry Hagedorn being off to a great start. Pete McKeith right there behind him, just 17 points back. Steve Clem, you mentioned him, a former class champ. Leanne Timoyan and Jake Zering locked up for that fourth position. Then Terry Hagedorn again. And speaking of Terry Hagedorn, here he comes with the first of 2 trucks. This one's down a little bit deeper in the points, about 7th or so, with gunpowder and lead.
And, you know, he's had 3 top 5 finishes with this truck, and he's a guy that's really benefiting from having a team of trucks on the track.
Oh, and it breaks. I said he was 7th, he was actually 6th, but he might fall down even deeper now, given the size, a massive size of this class, with something giving way there inside of that truck.
And you can tell that he had a full head of steam going into this run. Nice, easy off the throttle. You can see he's hooked up nice and tight. And there it goes.
Boy, tough bit. And now you know why they put the rollers on the bottom of the weight boxes as well. Those things used to dig the nose in when they would break like that, but it leaned up on that weight box and just rolled along, fortunately, so that the sled doesn't tear up the back of the truck.
David Mills here now, the War Wagon machine from Knoxville, Tennessee. And he's had a pretty good season so far. Staying in the top 10, he's 8th currently.
The mark 3:21 and 25 to beat. 3:12 and 22 is good enough to take over second place. So the War Wagon doing a nice job here.
Pete McKeith, though, your current leader as we take a look at our top three.
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League is brought to you by Speedco Truck Lube and Tires. Built for speed, staffed for quality, delivering world-class value. Optima Batteries, the ultimate power source. And by Wyotech. Enroll today, turn pro at Wyotech.
There's a beautiful overhead shot of the Indiana State Fair. This is the Speedco Indianapolis Pro Pulling Nationals presented by E3 Spark Plugs, and this is a huge fair, of course, serving the Indianapolis and surrounding areas. Beautiful sun there, just starting to set.
Jake Zering is another puller who is reaping the benefits of having a two-truck team, as both of his vehicles in the top 10 so far this season. Crash had a chance to catch up with him right after he got scaled.
Jake Zering sits 5th in points right now, and I noticed you just came off the scales. You're changing the air pressure. Why do that now instead of later on when the temperature gets a little cooler out?
Well, by the rules stated, we got to have our tires set before we measure our hitch, because as the temperature drops, the air pressure will change. So I got to figure out how much it's going to drop between now and the time I hook.
So no touching it once you get in line?
On the front tires, we can't touch them once we check our hitch height. The back tires, we can let them out after that.
So four-wheel drive class is basically just gearing what you control after you've been watching the nuances of the track.
Yes, there's a lot to do with the way the track changes when the sun goes down, the moisture comes up, and traction's a big factor.
And what he's speaking to is the fact that if they were to let some air out of those front tires, there's a possibility it could just slightly raise their hitch, and that would be out of compliance with the rules. Fast run.
I think just screaming right at the very end, and 3:13 and 36 is going to be good enough to sneak up into that second position.
Eases out of it, then man, does he let her have it and gets lots and lots of ground speed up here. Gets a little squirrely though at the end, doing a little bit of steering, and that's going to detract from the distance here, of course, as they need those front drive tires to dig into the ground.
And once again, we're going to go down to Terry Boyd. He is with Big John Mears to find out where they're going to set the full pull mark.
Big John, this Speedco four-wheel drive class is a tough one to set the sled. Are we official?
Yeah, we're official, but getting this class set is so fine. I mean, it's just a little bit, a half a weight or just a little bit of the trip. We ran two, we pulled a little half weight out. We were in the 285, 290. I thought we could do a little bit more. We've got one at 321. I think we could have 3 or 4 or maybe even 6 out the gate here tonight.
Okay, so to decipher all that, I think he's saying that the full pull mark is set at 320. So we've got one out the gate right now with Pete McKeith and Just Rutten.
You're the only one that would know that, by the way.
Well, it is a fine art to decipher that.
All right, Stray Dog is the name of the truck. The man behind the wheel is Daryl Varner. Boy, he had a bunch of ground speed as well, Leslie.
And it's all about getting that sled moving fast. I heard John also say that they were talking about they've got the trip set at 2. And what that means is that the box is going to roll out a long time before it tops off. So you can see that right about the 250-foot mark, that's when the box on the sled is going to top off completely. And that means the full weight of the sled probably not on the hitch of the vehicle until about the 280, 290 mark.
Next up inside of the category is going to be the Bamber Hemi. Has been on the podium a couple of times this season. Dave Bamber, the man behind the wheel, out of Bolivar, Missouri.
An engine builder out there as well. Don't be fooled by the blue oval. It is a Ford Hemi.
And that shotgun Hemi, as some would refer to it, gets that truck out there at 3:08 and 28, and it's starting to get tight.
It's interesting. We are seeing all of our competitors really start to wear out that right side of the track. That's where our hot rod semis had a lot of success. So they're thinking that the road is going to be built on that side of the track. However, the distance is all falling right into place, right around the 308 to 313 mark on that side. It'd be interesting to see if somebody's going to take a chance on the left. We haven't seen anybody over there all night.
Jim Bosch, another seasoned veteran inside of the category. This truck called Midnight Raider, but he's yet to get up into the top 3 so far this season.
You know, barely cracking the top 10 3 times, 2 8s and a 9th place finish only so far.
And a good effort here, 313 and 75. That is a really nice job there and good enough to take over second place.
He moved just slightly out of the groove. You can see back towards the center of the track. Great throttle control here, though, by all the drivers in our category, just really feeling it hook up to the track.
Puts just about 5 inches on Jake Zarin and the Dixie Chopper, and good enough to get up there into the top 3. We'll see if he can hang. It is a strong class with plenty of competition yet to come.
And so far for his season, he's got to feel really confident about that. We see Pete McKeith still out there all alone with our full pull mark set at 320 feet.
And the archway to get into the Indiana State Fair. As you take a look at the Midway, motorsports capital of the world, but everybody's having fun. There's nothing better than the Midwest fairs.
Oh, and I love skee ball. That's one of my favorites. Ever since I was a little kid, there's nothing like it out here. You got to play those carnival games. It just kind of brings back all those old memories.
That was me stuck at the top of the Ferris wheel, by the way. All right, Leanne Timoleon coming up, and Leanne off to a great start, doing a nice job inside of the top 5 here in the points.
Guys, all season long, Leanne Timoleon has been driving both Charmed and Spellbound, but she gets a little break today in Indy, just driving Charmed, and Charmed is in 4th place. Did you get to choose that, yeah, you wanted the better truck?
No, this has always been my truck originally. We made a lot of changes to my dad's truck before this weekend. We got a new motor, new tire, new setup completely, and I want to focus on this. Our season's almost over. You said it. I'm tied for 4th in points right now, so my goal is really that top 3 position, so I'm going to focus on this one tonight, and he's going to take over that one. I brought him out of retirement for tonight.
Well, she's right. They only have 1 pull left after this one.
And this is just really crucial, for her. 2 podiums early on in the season, and a podium here this weekend would really help her efforts as she's in that big mishmash. But at 3rd through 8th, it's really battling out, only separated by 5 points.
Jake Zarin in the Dixie Chopper went 313 and 36. I say that because she was tied for 4th in the points with them, and she goes 306. So needless to say, Jake Zarin will get the nod here going into the final event.
And you can see working the steering wheel with the left hand, throttle all the way forward on the right.
I mean, a good effort out of the Charm truck. It is a beautiful piece of equipment. There's no question about that, but unfortunately missed the mark here by a good bit to try and hang with Jake Zarin and stay inside of that top 4 in the points.
Charlie Hines, the Runnin' Wild Texas-style machine, probably our farthest traveled truck this weekend here, coming to us from Quitman, Texas.
Trying to sneak up there inside of that top 3. Good effort, 312.07. Just misses it, but does get into the top 5.
3 top 10 finishes on the year for Runnin' Wild Texas style. And you can see there's a few hops there on the starting line that these guys have to battle. But watch the truck as he spins in it, as it just slides right off to the left of the track. These guys trying to get any bit of ground that they can there at the end. So they'll just hold that throttle just maybe a second or 2 longer than you would think, trying to gain some distance.
Yeah, going on board here. And as you can see before, this is a 2 track pull. So the fans being treated to a lot of pulling action here. But here comes our points leader, Terry Hagedorn. We saw him a little bit earlier in gunpowder and lead, but this has been the truck to beat with 3 wins out of a possible 8 coming into this event. He's been on the podium 5 out of a possible 8 times, 3:23 and 61. And ladies and gentlemen, we have a new leader.
Check out his position on the track, though. Moves over to the left. Fresh tracks for those big tires to bite in the dirt.
Doing what he's done all season long, stays extremely consistent. Safe to say that he's going to end up in the top of this field, which is all he needs to do to just continue to maintain those points. He has a nice lead coming in here.
Well, and the important thing, he made the pull-off. So now he's almost on equal footing with Pete McKeith, which is the guy he's got to stay in front of. Randy Nelson up next from Illinois in the truck he calls Family Affair.
And he will not make it into the pull-off. As you can see to the right, their full pull mark is 3:20. He's 3:06.09.
In that center groove as well, but it seems like he hits those bobbles about 100 feet and doesn't quite get the ground speed that we've seen from some of our other hooks out here, and that's what it's going to take to pull the sled tonight.
He'll pull off out of the way, and up next will be a former class champion. We've had 6 different winners so far this season, and Steve Klim is one of those. Out of Versailles, Kentucky, Steve Klim knows how to get it done, that's for sure. And a little bit earlier today, Terry Boyd spoke with him.
Steve Klim's currently in 3rd in overall points in 2014. That's after a fairly lackluster 2013. What'd you guys do in the offseason to get ready?
Well, we didn't do a whole lot of changing. We did do some changing on the body, thanks to Eddie Allen. He remounted my body and saved me a bunch of weight in the body, and I had to do some adjustments because I had about 300 pounds I had to deal with, and 300 pounds on a 4-wheel drive is a bunch of weight.
And there's the big difference. The other difference I noticed, speaking of weight, your seat. There's no seat in your truck. Why?
Well, probably 2 reasons. For one, I've got enough seat on me, got enough cushion. The other, to be frankly, I like running my truck without the padding because you can get a better feel for what the truck is doing under you. It's hard to describe, but if you've drove these with and without, I just think it's a better feel for the truck. I can feel what the truck is doing without the padding.
And that extra 300 pounds crucial here, and any little edge that he can get has helped because he's sitting currently 3rd in the points.
You got to get up past that 3:13 mark to get into the top 3, or past the 3:20 mark to get into the pull-off. Unfortunately for Klim, he does neither.
Preparations for the pull-off begin. Pete McKeith all pulled down. Can Terry Hagedorn get his piece cool enough to run?
The Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League has been brought to you by Ion Camera, the lightest, fastest, fully waterproof HD action camera on the market. General Tire, anywhere is possible. And by Lucas Oil, made in America, sold to the world.
And the stars are out here for the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League at the Speedco Indianapolis Pro Pulling Nationals, presented by E3 Spark Plugs. We're at the Indiana State Fair. Just 2 hooks left in the 2014 season, including this one, and this is now an official pull-off. Just Rutten will be the first one to hook up to the sled. Pete McKeith trying to go out of here with a win. It would be his 2nd of the season. Boy, and he waited a good long while there, Leslie, to finally go to full throttle. 3:15 and 24, good number though.
And you can see the tracks of the sled show that as well, as it's very, very straight. Look at this, nice, even, as you can listen, and he waits. And finally goes full throttle. I mean, he had to be out there 125 feet before he decided to really lay into it. That's kind of the area where everybody else was kind of hitting those hops. And so very smart move there to not go full throttle till he got past that point so he could make sure he got those tires hooked up hard.
Of course, the good news for Pete was he had a little more time to get that engine a little bit cooler than Terry Hagedorn did.
But did you see he started heading back down the track? He wants to see this run here by Terry Hagedorn.
Absolutely, of course. I mean, this is for everything here, and Terry's been spot on all season long. We talked about it before. 5 podium finishes and 8 attempts so far this season, including 3 wins and trying to make it 4. That thing's just cackling.
And he didn't wait quite as long.
It wanders way off over there to the left-hand side, and he's going to miss it by just a little bit and finish in second place here tonight at 3:11 and 34. But it's exactly what he needed to do. I mean, if you can't win against second in the points, you've got to at least hang right there, and that's exactly what he did in second.
And you can see a very excited Pete McKeith there running back to his truck. Just an awesome class here of 4-wheel drives as we head up to the podium where we see Jim Bosch for the first time this year with Crash Gladys.
Well, guys, Jim Bosch comes up here for 3rd place and says, I'm happy with this. This is your best finish of the season, huh?
Yeah, we've had kind of a rough year, but right here in the Lucas Oil Series, hey, we'll take this tonight.
So what was different?
Well, we kind of had some issues with our motors, but we got things tuned in. We're ready to go.
So should we fear you the rest of the season?
Oh, yeah.
Fighting words, guys, fighting words.
Yeah, it's a really good feeling to come out here at this level of competition and have a good night. Get up on that box. All right, you can see in the poll out there how they finished. McKeith and Hagedorn, then Bosch in the top 3. As you take a look at the rest of the competitors here, we'll go back down to the podium with Terry Boyd, who's with second place, Terry Hagedorn.
To say that Terry Hagedorn has been the model of consistency in 2014 really doesn't do it justice. That's why he is your series points leader. Tonight, you make it into the pull-off. You had some heat issues, engine and clutch.
Yeah, we barely had time to even get it back to starting line, and it was smoking hot. We tried to cool it off with a leaf blower, but you can't get inside the bell housing that quick and cool that clutch off. It just didn't want to slip taking off there very good. And, you know, that's part of it. That's the luck of the draw. If I'd had 6-7 trucks in between us there, we might have had a little more time to cool it off, but we'll take it. We're here to win the championship, and that's what we're trying to do.
And he only loses 2 points tonight and gives himself a very healthy lead going into that final round. But it's Pete McKeith who finds himself on top for the second weekend in a row, taking the win.
Guys, we talked about this at the beginning of the class. Hey, he got second here last year. You knew, changed the clutch, changed the suspension. That research you did to get first. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. It worked good tonight. Track was awesome here tonight. Pretty proud of it.
Well, you weren't going to tell me your exact secrets earlier. Can you at least now that you've won?
No, Hagedorn's standing right over there. I can't be saying nothing.
I know he's got a pretty big lead on the points championship, but you're climbing on him. This is your second win in a row.
Yeah, it takes quite a few points in between the catching, but we'll be working on it.
Should be giving up now.
I ain't gonna give up. No way. I got my first. I'll keep working for them.
All right, well, now go celebrate.
Thank you very much.
And of course, if you want to find out where we're going to be next or video highlights, exclusive information about the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling Leg, head on over to propulling.com. And of course, we want to hear from you on social media at ProPulling on Twitter and Lucas Oil Pulling League on Facebook.
It's been a busy day, to say the least, with both tracks running out here with the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League. And, of course, we featured here the hot rod semis and the four-wheel drive category. Hope you enjoyed all the great pulling action for Crash Gladys, Terry Boyd, and Leslie Mears. I'm Ken Stout. Thanks for watching the Lucas Oil Pro Pulling League.